Welcome back. Well, I guess maybe this is the first time you're tuning in, but it is halftime with Harmon. We are going to review the late games here in week one. I already feel, I'll be honest with you guys, I already feel overwhelmed. I already feel like there's so much information that's just hit us in the face. I'm trying to take it all in, trying to just dive into the action. But first things first, let's talk about a little bit what happened in the early games, most of which has concluded, although if I'm not mistaken, the Tennessee Titans and Miami Dolphins is still on a delay. So that's the one game that hasn't ended, but like if it never ends, does it really matter? I personally won't miss it. Remember to jump into the chat and ask questions as we go along. But first things first, I do want to talk about probably the biggest story of the early games, and that is, in fact, the Cleveland Browns did not lose a game, but they didn't win one either. They tied 21-21 with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Cleveland in kind of a sloppy, rainy, messy, windy game in Berea there. Obviously, Tyrod Taylor didn't really have, the greatest game through the air, 37.5% completion rate. Not what you want to see out of your starting quarterback. The questions of Baker Mayfield will certainly reign in the media this week. There's no doubt about that. Of course, I'm not so sure that move is going to be made with the fact Cleveland didn't win this game, but they didn't lose it either. And that will certainly be a justification by your favorite head coach, Hugh Jackson, for why they keep Tyrod Taylor in the game. I'm looking mostly on this Cleveland Browns side. Obviously, we have a sterling touchdown reception from Josh Gordon. One catch, all that it was, but 17 yards and a touchdown on 3 targets. Josh Gordon obviously did not play a full complement of snaps, but he did play in a key situation there. Josh Gordon, I think you play him every single week for the hopes of the upside, for the hopes of the big game. The Browns do get the Saints in week 2. You'll certainly want to be throwing Josh Gordon out there after you saw what Ryan Fitzpatrick did to that Saints defense in New Orleans in week 1. We'll talk about that game a little bit later, no doubt about it. Obviously, Jarvis Landry was a volume monster. You can't get away from the guy. 15 targets, led the team, 7 catches, 106 yards. He just produces. He is going to be the focal point of this offense. There's no question about that. I believe in Jarvis Landry as the key guy in this passing offense. We'll continue to see him get volume throughout the season, in my opinion. But yeah, the Browns, they don't win. We just continue on with the Bud Light fridge is not going to get cracked open. But it was a good sign for the Browns that they were competitive in this game. Obviously, on the Pittsburgh Steelers side, a real messy spot for Ben Roethlisberger. I believe we talked about the stat on the first stream of the halftime games this week that the the Pittsburgh Steelers have gone under in all of their in 18 of 22 road games. Starting at 1 p.m. over the last couple of seasons. So, yeah, we are very excited about Ben Roethlisberger going forward, but this game was really rough, but it was rather predictable. Another big story from this contest is obviously James Conner. 31 carries, 135 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he had an impact as a receiver, 5 catches for 57 yards. I mean, this was a huge game for James Conner, and I think it's going to put the feet to the fire of Le'Veon Bell. His feet will be to the fire after this contest. There's no doubt about it. James Conner was proved to be an adequate replacement against a good defense in the Cleveland Browns. They're not a pushover anymore on the ground. I know they traded Danny Shelton, but they have a lot of solid players up front. And James Conner went out and had a great game. If Le'Veon Bell does not report, if he continues to hold out, James Conner is a must-start in fantasy football every single week, period. No other running back got a carry in this contest. James Conner was the 100% back. No other running back touched the ball. So we are looking at James Conner as a clear RB1 in fantasy. He's that type of replacement as long as Le'Veon Bell comes out. If he has already been picked up in your league, great. Whoever it was, congratulations to you. You got yourself a free RB1. If he hasn't for whatever reason, if he wasn't drafted, if somebody didn't pick him up on waivers yet, you better rush out there and do whatever you can. 100% of your waiver wire budget. Get the guy on your team. Do it now. A couple of the other big headlines from the Week 1 action, the early contests. Leonard Fournette is obviously down. He went down in this contest. His backup T.J. Yeldon caught a touchdown pass. Leonard Fournette has a long history of lower body injuries. I believe it was a hamstring that fell him out of this contest. We will see him. We'll see Leonard Fournette, what happens with him. But T.J. Yeldon is certainly an RB2 level replacement for the Jacksonville Jaguars as their starting running back if Leonard Fournette is out. The Jacksonville Jaguars offense, other than that, Keelan Cole led the way in terms of receiving yards for the rest of the game. D.D. Westbrook was number 2. Dante Moncrief just hauled in 1 catch. I think Westbrook will probably pass Dante Moncrief on the depth chart soon enough. He's worth a waiver wire add, as is Keelan Cole if he was not taken in the late rounds of your fantasy drafts. In other news, Doug Baldwin, in the second part of the games, he did get hurt. He is kind of becoming, a bit of a mess with the injury situations. The knee that was a problem in training camp. It is a problem here. Again, this is a different knee, but nevertheless, he is certainly an injury risk going forward. Obviously, the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks are squaring off right now. How about Washington's offense? Massive start for them. Adrian Peterson rushed for his 100th touchdown of his career. Really like that to see him there. A couple of we're going to take a couple quick chat questions before we jump on to another segment here. And we've got one question in from Justin1278. He asks, is it Baker Mayfield time next week? He thinks we're going to see him at week 4 at the earliest. I tend to agree that we're going to see Baker Mayfield sooner rather than later. Look, I like Tyrod Taylor. I like him as a nice backup quarterback. He's a good player overall. Didn't have a great game today. Obviously, neither did the quarterback on the other side of the field. But I do think we're going to see Baker Mayfield get in there and play sooner than later. I don't think it's going to be week 2. We saw Nathan Peterman get yanked for Josh Allen late in the game. I don't think we're going to see too much more of Nathan Peterman. I know Sean McDermott says that he needs to see the film, needs to evaluate the game tape before making a decision on Nathan Peterman. You'll recall that he said the same thing last time we saw Nathan Peterman start an NFL game, which of course was the 5 interceptions in one half against the LA Chargers last year. So I think we're going to see Josh Allen probably sooner than later, but they might try to kick this can down the road as well because they also get the Steelers and the Vikings in the next couple of weeks. So you might not necessarily want to throw Josh Allen out to the Wolves on an undermanned Bills offense that was just creamed by the Ravens today. Another question we're getting from the chat from Gordon Merck. Do you think Dorsett will be a top weapon for Brady this season? Dorsett, obviously, he hauled in a touchdown today. I don't think we're going to see Dorsett be a top weapon throughout the season, but we will probably see him play well while Julian Edelman is out. There's just not a lot of receiving weapons to go around here in New England. Cordero Patterson is out there taking major snaps, for God's sakes. Probably one of the biggest disappointments of today was Chris Hogan. Only caught 1 catch. I expected Hogan to have a big game. I projected him in our Fearless Forecast series to go over 100 yards. Not even close. I thought this was going to be a big-time shootout game with the Texans, and we'll double back and talk about the other side of the ball with Houston later. But I think Dorsett is a streaming candidate in high-scoring games, as this one was projected to be. We are going to see Dorsett get out there and get some valuable targets. And actually right now we're going to take a little bit of a side turn here. We're going to actually take a call from a viewer right now. We're going to talk about his fantasy team. We're going to talk to a viewer. We're going to actually get on the line right now with the viewer. So hang tight, and we're going to dial in. Big time stuff here, folks. Big time stuff. And we're dialing in right now to the Halftime with Harmon hotline. We're going to talk with a listener right now. If technology cooperates. In the meantime, we can... Hello.
Yep. Yo.
Who do we have on the line here today?
Hello. This is Evan Bauer.
How's it
What's
going?
Good with
Week 1 of the NFL season. How do you feel?
You know what, Matt? I'm feeling pretty damn good. Eagles-Falcons game was pretty boring that Thursday
No
opener,
doubt.
but
Yeah,
this
it's
Sunday's
been wild so far. A lot of unexpected twists and turns on my end. Yeah, I got to tell you, Evan,
Dude,
there's a few games that I bet on early that did not go my way. Mostly the Saints game. Did you get to check out any of the Saints' big-time loss to their division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers today?
I did. I couldn't freaking believe it either, dude. That was crazy. I mean, what a gunslinging match, though. I love it.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, for fantasy purposes, like Drew Brees smashed. Alvin Kamara was a stud, you know, in both the receiving and the rushing game. Michael Thomas, holy hell, that guy's just so amazing. I mean, he's a guy I was saying was going to be an elite receiver this year, and we definitely have seen it from him so far, but this was like another step in that progression. But on the other side of the ball, I mean, the story is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
What a beast.
I tweeted this out from our Yahoo Fantasy handle. In our daily fantasy contests, he was 0.4% owned in the Yahoo main slates, and he was the highest scoring player, 42 fantasy points. So, I mean, that was incredible. Yeah.
Oh, my God, that's crazy. I love it, too. Coming back from the dead. I remember when he was on the Bills and just, like,
I kind of forgot. I mean, he's played for, like, every team in the NFL, so, like, every team – every week is, like, a revenge game for him. But, yeah, I forgot, like, his big start was kind of with the Bills. I mean, he played with the St. Louis Rams years ago and with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, all these disgusting teams. But, yeah, I definitely took the Saints with 9.5 points there. I thought it was just a smash spot for them at home, but – pretty rough spot. So, Evan, what's going on with your fantasy team, though? That's what I want to hear about.
Well, speaking of the Saints and Tampa Bay, I'm a little pissed because I did not start Chris Godwin.
Yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, I didn't start Deshaun Jackson either. And he scored twice.
Ooh. To be fair, who comes?
Yeah, my debate was between Bruce Ellington, who is like a sleeper slot receiver with the Texans, a guy really, and he scored a touchdown too. But obviously Jackson totally smashed. So yeah, and it was one of those like just deep flex spots. So it was a pretty rough spot overall. But yeah, no, Chris Godwin though. I mean, that's a great pick by you, to be honest, because he's going to be a really good player. Mike Evans actually was kind of in and out with an injury today. If Mike Evans ever misses major time, you know, Chris Godwin's probably a guy who's going to see 100 targets and really smash in fantasy. So, you know, you didn't start him today. May you think about it going forward. Any other kind of duds in your lineup?
Yeah, so speaking of duds, or at least a lineup change.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Ravens real quick. I got Alex Collins and I got Javorius Allen. Javorius Allen put up way better numbers than Collins. Should I think about starting him next season, or was that?
Well, I think you could probably tell yourself because the Bills just destroyed. I mean, the Bills got destroyed by the Ravens. So I think we just saw their backup running back out there getting some run. But Javorius Allen, you know, Buck Allen, if you're nasty, you know, he's going to be a guy who's out there throughout the season. He's kind of like a Theoretic type player, but he's a little bit better of a runner. He's a good pass catcher. They trust him in pass protection too. So Buck's going to play, but I would still hold on to some a little more faith with Alex Collins. I think what you got to love if you own any of the Ravens fantasy players is Joe Flacco. I mean, Flacco was out there just dealing. Threw a bunch of touchdowns, threw one to my boy John Brown. Michael Crabtree was out there, 2 reception perception favorites. But all right, Evan, before we let you go, and it's been great having you call in, as you know, I'm sure you're just going to listen to this show and watch this show literally at every chance you get now, from now on.
Every chance I
love
can.
it. All right, who's your favorite team? Who's your favorite team in the NFL? Yeah, I got to do that.
You had to do that, huh? You had to go there. Well, as a born into it fan and I guess you would say a diehard, I'm a Washington Redskins fan.
Well, I mean, that's going well for you right now. They're actually kind of crushing it.
Hey, yeah, I'm you know, Adrian Peterson, Thompson.
Adrian Peterson scored his 100th rushing touchdown of his career. Who the hell would have thought that it would be in a Washington Redskins uniform? And yeah, I mean, Chris Thompson. It's crazy how this stuff happens. Chris Thompson picking up kind of right where he left off. 6 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown. Looking dynamic. I love Chris Thompson.
Dude, I'm so into that.
It's kind of as I mentioned before, like Chris Thompson, Jordan Reed, they're both healthy right now. They both have touchdowns. Like, as long as these two can hold out, this offense is kind of dynamic. Let me ask you before you go, just as a kind of a hot take question. Do you think Alex Smith is an upgrade at quarterback over Kirk Cousins?
Ooh, wow. Okay, so I've been debating this with myself the entire time this entire match so far. Um, as far as skill wise, I would say they're pretty even. Maybe Kirk Cousins can sling that ball a little harder and farther, but I got to be honest, man. Nothing is beating Alex Smith's experience right now. The consistency and at least experience in the pocket and to know what to do
Yeah,
with
I
it,
feel
I'll
you.
take that
I've been
every day.
impressed with Alex Smith. This was an offense I really, really liked this year. Bet some futures bets on them and took a lot of their players in fantasy. You know, they're deep and talented at the skill position perspectives. And here's the thing. My opinion, as a professional, I have an opinion on everything. Alex Smith is kind of like an extension of the coach. I think Jay Gruden really wants a quarterback to be in his system. That was clearly when he got to Washington, why he just wanted nothing to do with Robert Griffin III. He's like, no, I want a guy to facilitate and run my system. Kirk Cousins kind of has some of that in him, but he also kind of has a little bit of that gunslinger. But Alex Smith will just go out there and run the offense. You know, he will distribute the ball where it needs to be. He'll be on time. Get everybody in position, and he'll always be on schedule. I think that's why Alex Smith is going to kind of work out here, is because he's just an extension of the play caller, an extension of Jay Gruden on the field. So I like the way the season's looking for them.
Man, that's exactly what I want to hear.
I like the way the season's working out for them. I think they're going to be the second best, if not the best team in the NFC East if Carson Wentz doesn't get healthy.
Ooh,
yeah, if Carson Wentz doesn't get healthy, I think they got a shot to win this division. Dallas sucks. New York is going to be up and down because all they really have is skill position players. They don't have an offensive line. They do not have a good defense. So I think Washington could be a well-rounded team if they stay healthy with guys like Jordan Reed and Chris Thompson, who obviously have never stayed healthy their entire careers. Evan?
You know what, Matt?
Well,
I like that prediction.
I'm here to please
prediction.
The loyal listeners such as yourself. Evan, it was great talking to you today. Good luck the rest of the season to both your team and your fantasy team, and thanks for calling in.
Hey, Matt, it was a pleasure, and I'll be tuning in next week. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Well, what a time. We got to get a great call from a listener there, a Washington fan. I meant what I said. I think this offense is really enticing for fantasy. No doubt about it. There's just so much exciting potential in this offense. If Jordan Reed is healthy, if Chris Thompson is healthy, this is an offense that's going to put up a lot of points. All the fantasy players are really going to smash in this offense. Going forward, we got one question while we were on the line with Evan there from Orlando on Facebook. He asked about Joe Mixon, the outlook of Joe Mixon going forward. You got to like what you saw from Joe Mixon today, not just as a goal line runner. He scored a touchdown. Gio Bernard touched the ball twice today. That was not quite what I expected. I thought Joe Mixon would be splitting the carries a bit more with Gio Bernard, but, you can't deny what you saw out there. Mixon looked like a feature back. Mixon looked like the guy. 17 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown. And again, as I mentioned, he chipped in with 5 catches for 54 yards, 100 total yard effort for Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is a really good matchup. The Colts defense is never good. They don't stop the run well at all. They did not today, and they did not defend Mixon well in the passing game either. But if Joe Mixon is going to get this type of usage, which I'll be honest with you, I did not expect, he is going to be a fantasy starter each and every week of the regular season. Each and every week we're going to see Joe Mixon out there being a RB2, being someone that you play every single week regardless of the matchup. If he gets that type of pass game usage especially. He was second on the team in targets with 7 behind A.J. Green, who led the team with 8. So A.J. Green right now, also just to talk about him, he had a couple drops. He actually lost a fumbled twice today. Cincinnati got one back. But A.J. Green was out there as a clear dominator in terms of the targets. Like I mentioned, 8. Tyler Boyd had 5. John Ross, he only had 2 targets, but he scored a touchdown. So if you play John Ross in fantasy football, you're happy. But it doesn't look like Ross is going to be someone that just carves out big target shares every week. He's obviously going to make big plays. He's a real good player. But A.J. Green is certainly someone that is a dominant wide receiver 1 right now. Let's kind of stick on this game a little bit longer. Rocky performance from Andy Dalton to start. The Bengals do get the win. Took that game. We'll talk about some of my gambling picks earlier, what did and did not work out. But 75% completion rate for Andy Dalton. This offense did look a lot better once he kind of settled in. Andrew Luck, interesting on the other side of the field. Luck averaged just 6 yards per attempt. They are definitely trying to dial him back. It was a little frightening whenever you saw Andrew Luck take off, break the pocket, because he was going to get some big hits. Actually, there was an ejection in this game early on. Sean Williams of the Bengals was ejected for a hit he put on Andrew Luck while he was out there scrambling around. I mean, Luck, you're just hoping he stays healthy. They definitely want to change his usage going forward. There's no doubt about that. But I think it was nice to just see Luck out there, 53 attempts, chucking the ball around and playing well. So, it's not the Luck of old where he's just going to be gunning it downfield and hopefully not so much trying to shoot himself outside of enemy territory. But you do like what you saw out of Andrew Luck. Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines were very involved. Kristen Michael only had 2 carries for 9 yards. Nyheim Hines only averaged 3.8 yards a carry, but he was out there as a pass catcher. He was out there in the receiving game. 7 catches for 33 yards. In a game like this, inside, he's going to be out there rolling around as a pass-catching asset, sort of like a Darren Sproles light. I'm not the first one to make that comparison. Many, many people have. Jordan Wilkins was the early feature back. He had 14 carries for only 40 yards. Obviously, you don't want to see that, but he was clearly the first guy out there, and he also caught 3 passes for 21 yards. So that's great usage. I mean, that's great usage for Jordan Wilkins. In more plus matchups against lighter fronts, you're going to want to throw him out there, but this is also just not a good offensive line. It's not going to be a great situation for running success there in Cincinnati because there's going to be just some hiccups with that offensive line, but it's a shot you want to take in fantasy football. All right, we're going to check in on some of the games that are going on right now, and one I am so excited to react to right now is the Kansas City Chiefs pulling the upset over the LA Chargers, 31-12 right now. Kansas City in LA. Look, we'll talk about my picks in a minute, but I took the over on this game, and I took it really. I was real confident about this over because I don't trust the Chiefs' defense at all, and they have played well in this game, played better than I thought. But this Chiefs' offense is explosive, and with some of the weapons that are missing on the defensive side of the football from LA. Joey Bosa down and injured. He's not in this contest. Casey Hayward was coming in a little banged up. Several injuries on the Chargers defense. Corey Legit also suspended to start the season, one of their interior players. I was confident this Chiefs offense was going to come and light it up, and we have seen it, man. Patrick Mahomes. Oh, my God. Is Patrick Mahomes the next star quarterback of the NFL? Hit the chat up and tell me what you think. I'm in love with this guy. 3 passing touchdowns right now. He's a gunslinger, averaging 11.5 yards per attempt, just dicing up this Chargers defense. And Tyreek Hill, man, he's unstoppable. It doesn't matter the matchup. 6 catches, 168 yards, and a touchdown. He's got 7 targets, leads the team. He's 1 ahead of Travis Kelce. Oh, and by the way, he scored a 91-yard punt return to start this game off with a touchdown there. And that was incredible. He hit 21 miles per hour per Next Gen Stats. The NFL's player tracking data showed him there at 21.78 miles per hour. Tyreek Hill is unbelievable. He's not just a gadget player. I've been saying that for years now, pretty much since his rookie season. I said that this guy is someone who can run routes, who can really crush it as a full-field receiver. And I was impressed with Tyreek Hill, what I saw again today. And Patrick Mahomes is just an unbelievable talent. I mean, this guy can take over the league if he gets to the right spots. If this continues up, this offense is just so dynamic because obviously, like I said, you have a weapon like Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins, I think, is not a number 1 wide receiver. I do think he is a little bit. Some people overrate him. Some people don't like him at all. Believe me, but some people do overrate Sammy Watkins. But he is a talented receiver, really good. He's a good starter. Travis Kelce's a dynamic tight end. He has 6 targets, only 1 catch today, but Travis Kelce's definitely one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And then they have all these ancillary players like Chris Conley, DeAnthony Thomas, who has a touchdown reception today. Spencer Ware. People forget about Spencer Ware, but he is a talented pass catcher, especially in yards after the catch. He was great at that when he was starting. Let's dive just into a couple more of these other games. We kind of talked a lot about Washington with Evan on the line. But let's look right now at Seattle 10, Denver 17. Look, if you've been following me this offseason, there's one big takeaway from this game, and it's something I've been harping on all offseason. It's Emmanuel Sanders. Manny Sanders, 8 catches, 120 yards and a touchdown. He was the best value pick in fantasy football this year, bar none at the wide receiver position. If you followed me this offseason, you drafted Emmanuel Sanders just like I did, and you're really happy about it. He's a slot receiver now for Denver. Look, Case Keenum's got 3 picks, but he's obviously just dialing in on Emmanuel Sanders. That is a true bromance, a true love affair right there, Emmanuel Sanders and Case Keenum. This guy's an every week start. That's the big takeaway from this game. Going on to just Dallas and Carolina real quick. I think Carolina's offense looks good. They're not scoring a lot of points. Christian McCaffrey fumbled inside the 5-yard line, but I think the Panthers' offense is moving well. Cam Newton's kind of dialing it back a little bit. North Turner, I got to say, is calling a good game. And one thing I'm also a little worried about from the Dallas perspective is Carolina's controlling the line of scrimmage. Dontari Poe and K'Wan Short are elite defensive tackles, no doubt about it. But, with Joe Looney as the center instead of Travis Frederick, that is a problem for Dallas, and they're getting pushed around up there. And as you're seeing it with Ezekiel Elliott's stat line, 10 carries for 39 yards, and Dak Prescott just looks middling right now as a starting quarterback against a defense that is admittedly very solid. Last thing we'll do before we get out of here is we'll take a look at some of the picks I made this week, some of the places I put my money on, and we're going to see what I did well, what I didn't do well. If we could pull the graphic up on the screen, we're good to go here. One thing obviously I want to highlight that I did well was I took the Bengals. I took the Bengals just to straight win this game. Indianapolis at the early part of the week was favored. They were favored to win the game. It was closer to like a 1-point spread. Cincinnati actually getting a point there towards the end of the contest, right before it started to kick off. And, that was a good one. That one worked out. One place it did not work out was the Saints -9. I got creamed on that one. The Bucs actually won that game straight up. So pretty stupid look by me. No doubt. That was rough. I'm going to lose a little bit of money there. But another place that it does look like it's going to work out is the Bengals. I mentioned the Bengals already, but the Panthers -2.5 at home over the Dallas Cowboys. As I just talked about, they are controlling that contest right now. 10-0 Carolina is probably going to win that game at home. Dallas just doesn't really have the horses on offense to threaten them. Cam Newton at home is always a good quarterback, always a good bet to make. One other place that I'd also like to highlight too is the Kansas City Chiefs and LA Chargers. We talked about that one right now. That was a game that I took the over on. The over-under was set at 48. I took the over on that, and we are at 42 points with still some time to go, especially if the Chargers are in catch-up mode. These are 2 explosive offenses, so I thought that was a good bet. And lastly, one you guys can all kind of tilt along with me tomorrow. I took the under on the LA Rams at Oakland tomorrow. I don't think Oakland's a good offense. Don't think they're going to push the ball downfield much against a Rams secondary that just loaded up on elite press man coverage corners in Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. So join me alongside with me tomorrow and maybe throw some money around on that game. Look, gambling, it's a thing now. We're all doing it. PAPSA, baby. This thing is only getting bigger and better as we go. Just makes the games more exciting. It makes predicting them a little more fun to try to throw some money on there. And I'm looking forward to watching that game tomorrow night. So hopefully you guys will all tune into this show once again next week. Halftime with Harmon. Get in the chat, interact a little bit so you guys can be a part of this show. And as you heard, we called into a loyal listener, a loyal viewer earlier in this edition, and we will do so again next week. So if you want to do that, definitely hit me up if you want to be on the show next week. And tomorrow night we got some good games. In addition to the Rams and Raiders, we also got the Jets and the Lions. By the way, the Lions are my survivor pick. I took the Lions to beat the Jets tomorrow. Sorry to the haters out there. You know who you are. But I think Detroit was a much better lock than the Saints because I think the Saints are going to be a better team that you're going to want to lose. You're going to want to use later in the year. Same with the Packers and the Ravens, other popular picks. The Lions, I'm not trying to pick the Lions many weeks, but I am picking them over rookie quarterback in Detroit, Sam Darnold, getting his first start. All right, everybody, this has been a pleasure to talk to you. I'm Matt Harmon. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Yahoo Fantasy. You can follow me at MattHarmon_BYB. Like the page on Facebook. Like us on Twitch. Watch on YouTube. Do whatever you can to consume a little hashtag halftime with Harmon. And good luck in the rest of week 1, and we will see you in week 2.